Hello, folks, and welcome to lecture number one for tables and matrix revision. I hope before this you have watched the Venn diagram revision and the arrangements revision. So, now let's begin with tables and matrix part one. Before watching this lecture, I hope you have attempted the quiz which is there on the website. If not, please do that. The link is in the description below, and only then come back to this lecture. All right, let's begin. So, what is set number one telling us? In a country, elections were conducted in each of the seven states, A through G. In each state, the party that secured more than 50% of the votes polled will win the election and come to power. Okay. In any state, if no single party secures more than 50% of the votes polled, a coalition will form between two parties or three parties, but not more, such that the votes secured by the parties involved add up to more than 50% of the votes polled in that state. So, if a single party is not having more than 50% and winning, then the coalition must have more than 50%. Of course, that will be the majority because total is 100 and rest of the non-coalition parties will have less than 50%. So then there should be minimum 50% in order for a coalition to win. Okay. Further, whenever two or three parties form a coalition in any state, the coalition is formed at a national level. That is, the parties involved form a coalition in all the other states as well. So that means if I have, let's say, three parties going into a coalition, they will go in the coalition for all three states, all the states that they are winning, not just one or two states. Okay. In each state, the chief minister is appointed from the party that secured more than 50% of the votes polled. In case no party secured more than 50% of the votes polled, the chief minister is appointed from any party which secured the maximum number of votes polled among the parties involved in the winning coalition. ठीक है. So even if let's say I have a coalition with 25%, 20%, and 10%, the 25% party will have their chief minister in that state. Okay. But I have not been given anything in case it's a 20-20-10. In that case, because I have not been given anything, I will just assume that any of the parties can have their own chief ministers. Okay. So I've been given the name of the six parties that participated in the elections in each of the seven states. Okay. The first table given below provides the percentages of votes secured by each party in each state, and the second provides the number of chief ministers from each party appointed across the seven states. Okay. So, of course, we need to figure out one, what are the coalitions, and two, who won in which state and got their chief ministers. So, that's the whole point of this set. All right. Let's look at how we can start and where can we go with this data. At first, there might not seem a lot of clues to begin with, but I definitely always tell you guys to look at the extremes, right? So, do I have any party which has more than 50% vote in any state? No, I don't. So, that means in every state, it's going to be a coalition government, right? Another extreme which I can see is that over here, WDP has total zero number of chief ministers. I'm sure this clue will come in handy somewhere or the other because it's an extreme. Okay. All right. Let's start with this exercise. Let's figure out in each state which party can have their chief minister. Okay. From there, we'll be able to hopefully map the chief ministers that the parties have had. Right. Let's do that. Let's start with set state A. Now, guys, clearly I know that if in state A, the coalition which has WDP, if that coalition wins, WDP will become the party which will give the chief minister. Yes. So one option that I have is in state A that WDP wins and gives their chief minister. Cool. Okay. What if WDP is not in power? What if WDP is not in the group which wins the election? In that case, the second highest AHP or EDP, any of them can have their chief minister, right? I'm just trying to make cases and understand what the table looks like, right? Can any of the parties apart from these three have their chief ministers? No, because if CGP, TPL, and TRP form a coalition, not only are they less than 50%, but they're also lesser than the other three parties. So I know for sure that state A's chief minister will be from one of these three parties: AHP, EDP, and WDP. Okay, everybody with me? Perfect. But I also know that WDP does not have any chief minister. So this case is not possible. So either in state A we have AHP or EDP. Okay, cool. How about state B? State B, clearly if TPL is in a winning coalition, TPL will have their chief minister. Yes. What if TPL is not in a winning coalition? Another coalition could be AHP, CGP, and TRP. And that also gives me 50%. Right? But does that give me more than 50%? I don't think so. Right? We need more than 50% because if the other three parties, which is TPL, EDP, and WDP, if they form their coalition as well, they also will have 50%. So TRP in any case cannot have their chief minister in state B. Yes. So what I know for sure is TPL will have their chief minister in state B. Okay, this is one information which I have gotten. So let's mark this in green. TPL gets in state B. Okay. Let's look at state C. Again, if the winning coalition contains the party CGP, CGP will have their chief minister. What if CGP is not in the winning coalition? We can have AHP, TRP, and let's say one of EDP or TPL winning. So you can have a chief minister from AHP or TRP. Now again, the same thing I will check whether TPL and ADP can have. They cannot, because if they have 15, 15 and 0, they're not crossing 50%. Also, the other parties will have more percentage of votes overall. Right? So I know one of these three parties, AHP, CGP, and TRP, can have their coalition, can have their candidate in state C. Fine. Okay. How about state D? State D, again, if the winning coalition has the party TPL, they will have their chief minister. Yes. But what if they don't? In that case, TRP and AHP can coalition and with one other party, and TRP can have their chief minister. Okay. AHP still cannot have, because even if AHP, EDP, and WDP have a coalition, they have less than 50%, same logics. So these are the only two possibilities in state D. Okay. Let's look at state E. State E is, of course, if EDP has their coalition winning, they will have their chief minister. Yes. But let's say EDP is not winning. WDP cannot win. We already know WDP does not have any candidate, right? So can TRP win? No. So TRP, even if they combine and collate with, let's say, CGP or TPL, who are the next two rankers in state E, TRP cannot win. So therefore, again, I know in state E, EDP is the only one who can have a chief minister. Yes. Oops. Amazing. Amazing. So I've gotten this as well. Let's move to state F. State F, clearly, if CGP wins, is part of the winning coalition, they will have their candidate. Okay. What if CGP is not in the winning coalition? I can have TRP in the winning coalition. Yes. So TRP can have their candidate. Can the any other three parties win without these two parties? I don't think so. So therefore, TRP or CGP, one of them will have their candidate in state F. Yes. All right. Let's look at the last state. What does it tell us? State G, the highest is TPL. So TPL can have their chief minister in state G if the coalition wins. If not, TRP can have it. Yes, TRP can have it, because let's say TRP, CGP, and EDP, these three collate, then TRP can win. Okay. Can CGP win? Of course not. Of course, because if TPL and TRP are not in the same coalition, CGP cannot win. So this is what I know of who can win in which state. Right? Let's look at what else we can infer over here. All right. So guys, what we see in table number 2, that EDP has had two chief ministers. And if we look at our table number 1, there are only two places where EDP can win. Yes. So therefore, state A has to be an EDP chief minister. So this is not possible. Therefore, state A will have an EDP chief minister. Okay. Now I also know that AHP has one chief minister and AHP can only win in state C. So I know in state C, AHP will have their chief minister. Yes. Now with CGP also, I know they have one chief minister. So in state F, CGP will have their chief minister. Okay. So this is out as well. Yes. Now between TPL and TRP, I know there is one each which is left because TPL has two. One is already given to state B and TRP has one. All right. So let's figure out how we can get TLP and TRP. But before that, we can also start looking at which would have been the possible coalitions, right? Because at the end, coalitions are winning this, not individual parties. So let's look at state A. Since we know in state A, WDP did not win, there have to be other parties which have won. And we know EDP has won. Now, guys, can EDP win without being in coalition with AHP in state 1, state A? No, right? Because there are only maximum 3 parties which can have a coalition. So I know for sure that AHP and EDP are in one coalition. And I also know WDP is not in that coalition. WDP is outside. Okay. What else can I infer? Now, with these other two parties, which are AHP and EDP in state A, I have 40% in total. Yes. And I need a majority. So I can have either of CGP, TPL, and TRP. Any of them will give me more than 50%. So I don't know which one is it yet. All right. Let's look at state C. Now, if in state C, if CGP and AHP would have been in one coalition, CGP would have won and would have had their chief minister. But that is not the case. That means I can also say CGP is not in the same party as AHP and EDP. Yes, CHP is with another party which is WDP over here. Correct? All right. What else can I see? If I look at state E over here, I know that CGP and WDP are together. That is giving me a 35%. So if TRP gets with them, then EDP cannot win in state E. Correct? So what I know is TRP is not with CGP and WDP. So TRP has to be with these two parties and TPL has to be with these two parties. And once I do that, I now clearly know what will be the results in state D and state G as well. Yes, because in state D, if you have AHP, in state D, if you have AHP, TRP, and EDP getting into one coalition, clearly TRP is going to win, and then state G will be won by TPL. And that's it. That's the end of the set. I hope it was pretty simple and logical how to begin with and how to actually check options and eliminate cases, right? Just logical inferences based on extremes. Extremes like a party did not have any chief minister, extremes regarding the percentages of who can win, extremes regarding who can be the chief minister in a willing coalition. That's it. Let's answer the questions quickly. Here, the table, the bolded ones are the coalitions, and the green ones are the ones who have had the chief ministers. Question number 1. Which party was the chief minister of state C from? Clearly AHP. Chief minister of which state was from? TRP, state D. In how many states to which the following the chief minister belongs secure less than 25% votes? So there is one, two, there's two. That's it, just two. In how many states was the chief minister not from the party which secured the maximum number of votes? So this is one, This is 2, this is 3, and that's it. It's just 3. And that's it. The set is over. Yes, slightly tricky. You had to make a lot of parallel observations, but I believe it was a pretty doable set. Not the top set in my preference in this test. There were simpler sets. So let's move forward. All right, this is an interesting set. I really like the one trick which we will use in this, which will be uh, cracking this set open very, very simply. Yes. So I've been given 5 friends. The names are given to us who have decided to go have a get together once a week for 5 weeks. They also decided that each of them will host the other 4 together at his own house for the get together. Okay. I've been given 5 surnames, not necessarily in the same order. They also decided to arrange a show of their favorite movies at their place. One of the movie is called The Nth Degree, and further information is given to us. So clearly, I have 5 friends, I have their surnames, and I have 5 movies. And if I quickly glance through the clues, I have a lot of clues, that is 11. And I also know that there is another attribute, which is the director. So we'll have to essentially map the name, the surname, the movie they showed at their party, and the director who directed that movie. Okay. Let's start making the table and see how we can crack this very, very quickly and simply. Okay. Guys, what is the one thought process that we need to have in this kind of a set when you have so many clues and there are so many variables that we need to map? Remember the one fixed thing. The one fixed thing is there are only 5 friends. So there are only going to be 5 row items in total in my final table. Yes. So what I will try to find in this set is clues which are telling me about 3 weeks or 3 different row items. That's the key over here in such sets. You will find a similar set in tables and matrix 2 test as well, spoiler alert. But if you learn this trick, you will be able to crack such sets very, very fast without getting trapped into the cases, because otherwise you will have to make a lot of cases to actually figure out what is happening. Okay. So let's understand and find those clues which are giving me 3 different weeks. Clue number 1 tells me that get together at Jay's house is 1 week before get together at Bhatia's house, which is 1 week before the movie directed by Steve Smith would have been played. Okay. So I know that there is Jay, then there is Bhatia, then there is Steve Smith. But I don't know if Jay is first or second or third in terms of week order 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Jay clearly cannot be fourth and fifth because Bhatia and Steve Smith are after Jay. So Jay can be 1, 2, or 3. I don't know that. So for now, I will place Jay over here, Bhatia over here, and Steve Smith over here. Why have I done this? If Jay is first, I can have the other entries below it. If Jay is third, I can have other entries above it. That's the only logic. Hence, I made a little longer table as well. Okay. ठीक. So clue number 1, I have placed that Jay, then Bhatia, and then Steve Smith. Can I find another clue which is talking about similar 3 unique row items? Yes, I can. Clue number 5 is telling me in the gatherings held in 3 consecutive weeks, Dubey was the host in the first week. Okay. So I have a lot of cases. Dubey can be here, Dubey can be here, Dubey can be here, Dubey can be here. I have a lot of cases. We will quickly see what works out, what doesn't. Okay. So what I do know is Dubey was the host in the first week. They watched Sun in the next week. So they watched the Sun in the next week. And in the last week, Vishal was the host. So this is what I know. Now let's quickly try and place these 3 different row items into our table and see if we can come out with a unique case or something. Yes. Guys, if Dubey is here, Vishal will have to be here, which is not possible. Yes. So this is not possible. If Dubey is here, right, Vishal will be over here. Okay. Do I have something on Vishal? I have clue number 10, which tells me that Vishal, whose surname is not Bhatia. So therefore, Vishal cannot be there. Yes. Okay. If Dubey is here, Vishal will be over here. Yes. But again, clue number 10 tells me Vishal did not play the movie directed by Steve Smith. So even that is not possible. Okay. So therefore, I'm left with Dubey being here, the son being played here, and Vishal being here. And if you notice, I have got 5 unique rows in which each of them I have at least one attribute fixed. So this is how I make my table and answer quickly, because I have fixed these 5 positions. Now I just need to play in this area. Yes, very simple. All right. So I have taken care of clue number 5 as well and clue number 10 as well. Okay. Now what I will try to do is I will find clues which have these names, Jay, Vishal, Bhatia, Dubey, the son, Steve Smith, so that I'm able to find relative positions of other items in the table and fill them quickly. Okay. So do I have any clues which I can directly put? Let me just get rid of this. Okay. Yes, clue number 4 tells me the movie directed by Andy Murray was not watched at Jaya's house. So I know this is not Andy Murray. Okay, clue number 4 is done. Okay, clue number 6 does not really tell me anything. Clue number 7 again not really. 8 not anything as well. All right, all right. Okay, clue number 9 looks interesting. Even though I have a negative marking on Andy Murray, let's look at clue number 9. Ravi was the host 1 week before uh, they watched Andy Murray. So can I have some insight on that? So maybe Andy Murray can be here and Ravi will be here, or Andy Murray can be here, Ravi can be here, right? I don't know that for sure, but I will just note it down. Okay. Okay. Clue number 11 tells me the movie directed by Nick Jones was not the son and was not played at Dubey's house. Okay, this is interesting. So Nick Jones and Dubey is already not a combination we know. I have also been told that the son is not directed by Nick Jones. So this is not Nick Jones. Okay. This is what I know. And clue number 11 is taken care of. All right. Now, since we have got a negation on Nick Jones as well, can I find some relation with Nick Jones? Let's see. Clue number 3 tells me that they watched movie Romeo 1 week before they watched the movie directed by Nick Jones. So if I put Nick Jones here, Romeo has to be here, which is not possible. Okay. So, and I also know that because there is a gathering before the week Nick Jones is shown, Nick Jones cannot be first. So I know for a fact that Nick Jones will be over here and Romeo will be viewed over here. Yes. So I can say clue number 3 is done as well. Okay. All right. So now we will find other clues which are talking about 2 weeks. So again, we will be able to put some constraints, right? So clue number 2 tells me that 1 week after the gathering happened at Gupta's house, they watched Keeves. Okay. So there is Gupta and then Keeves. Okay. Clue number 6 tells me 1 week after they watched Love Life, Ashish hosts the get together. So there is Love Life and then Ashish. Okay. This is one. This is one. And ninth clue tells me Ravi was the host 1 week before they watched the movie directed by Andy Murray, which we have already sort of looked at in the table. All right. So now that we know that these 3 connections exist, let's see which of them we can definitely contradict with each other. So what I'm going to do, you can do it visually and mentally as well. I'm just showing so that you're able to understand better. Okay. Let's say if I put Andy Murray over here, suppose Ravi will have to be here. Yes, correct. Then the only place this Gupta and Keeves is possible is Keeves being here, but Gupta cannot be here. And there is no other way I can fit Gupta and Keeves in the table. So therefore, I can conclude that Andy Murray cannot be here. Yes, Andy Murray has to be here. Ravi has to be here. Keeves has to be here. Gupta has to be here. Correct? And then the only way love language and Ashish combination can happen is if Ashish is Gupta and love language is played over here. I hope this is clear. So clue number 2, clue number 6, and clue number 9 are also taken care of. This is Ashish. Arun is left over here. I know Moonwalk was not played at Arun's house, so Moonwalk was played over here. And nth degree was played over here. Yes. So John Smith has to be here. Now the last clue, which is talking about clue number 7. The movie directed by John Smith was not watched at Verma's house. So therefore Verma will be here and Mehta will be here. And that's it. My table is complete. I hope that you have been able to understand how finding two clues which have three unique rows can help you structure the table much, much faster. Yes, let's look at the questions very quickly. Which movie was played at Ashish's house? The Sun. Yes. What is the surname of Arun? Bhatia. Who directed the movie Nth Degree? Nick Jones. Which movie was played at Jay's house? Romeo. And that's it. The set is complete. All right, let's look at the next set. All right, it's a classic, looks like a classic missing value kind of a set. Yes. In the Oscars Academy, there were some films competing in the foreign film section. Okay. The films were from 5 different regions: Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and Antarctica. I wonder who's sending movies from Antarctica and not went to Oscar, but fine, that's not for us to judge. There were at least 2 films and at most 10 films in each category, and the total number of from each region, and the total number of films from all the 5 regions put together is a perfect square. So we have it's sort of an indirect clue where we don't know what the total number is, but I'm sure we'll be able to figure it out very easily. Yes. We know there are 5 regions, each of them sending at least 2 films. So minimum 10 films are coming in, and maximum 10 from each region. So maximum 50 films in total are coming in. So the total number of films can be 16, 25, 36, or 49. Only these 4 options. Okay. The films belong to 5 different categories which have been given to us, and then we have been given some clues. So clearly, we just need to figure out which region is sending how many movies in what category, and then we'll be able to answer the questions. Right? Looks straightforward. Let's look at this. So, first, my aim here or in any such matrix set is if I can find the totals. Never forget the total row and total column. The aim will be to find those totals, right? Let's see if I can do that. Clue number 1 tells me the number of art films was exactly half the number of films in each of the other categories. So if I take art films as X, social, children's, horror and fantasy, all of them become 2X. So therefore the total has to be a multiple of 9 because that is 9X. And there is only one option, which is 36. Yes. So this becomes 4, 8, 8, 8, and 8. Very simple. Okay, so clue number 1 is done. Now, if I can, I would also like to find each region's total. Yes. So there are 2 ways to do this. One, of course, is from clue number 4, where you have been given the relative relation between each region's films. Asia is 2 more than Europe, which is 1 more than Africa, so on and so forth. Or another way, very simply again, could be just looking at, let's say, clue number 6. Clue number 6. The number of films sent from Asia in each category is different, and there were no movies from Asia in children's category. So Asia and children's category is 0, and rest of them is unique. So I know that it will be 10 because any region can send maximum 10 movies. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Now I will use clue number 4. So I don't have to really deal with variables in this case. So Asia is 2 more than Europe. So this becomes 8. Europe is 1 more than Africa. So this becomes 7. Africa is 1 more than Australia. So this becomes 6. And this becomes 5. So I have all the totals. Now let's fill up the table as much as we can. Yes. Okay. Where do we go? The number of films, let's look at point number 7, looks pretty direct to me. The number of films in the fantasy category sent by all the regions other than Asia is equal. So fantasy category total is 8 number of movies. Yes. 4 of which values have to be equal. So they can either be 2, 2, 2, 2 and Asia 0, or 1, 1, 1, 1 and Asia 4. Now, since I know Asia has unique in all of them and already has a 0 in children's, Asia has to have a 4 over here and 1, 1, 1, 1 in each of them. Yes, I hope that's clear. Okay. What does clue number 5 tell me? Except Antarctica, all the other regions sent at least one film in art category. So art already had only 4 and Antarctica is 0. Rest all of them sent at least one, which has to be exactly one in order to get total of 4 movies. Yes. What else does clue number 5 tell me? That while Antarctica sent at least one film in each of the remaining categories. Okay. So remaining, it will be either 1 or 2. Correct? 1, 1, 1, 1, and only 1, 2 will be there because the total is 5. So I don't know that yet. So I will keep it for now. Okay. All right. What does clue number, so I've left with clue number 2 and 3, right? Okay. Let's look at clue number 2. Looks pretty short. Europe sent an equal number of films in social, children's, and horror category. Amazing. So I have already given one film to art and one to fantasy. So therefore, the other 3 categories, if they are equal, they will have to be 2, 2, and 2 each. Very straightforward. Okay. What does clue number 3 tell me? The maximum number of films sent by Antarctica is in the horror category. We know Antarctica can only send 2 as maximum. So this has to be in horror and 1 in rest of them. Yes. So clue number 5 also gets completed with this. And what is the second part of clue number 3 telling me? And each region sent at least one film in horror and social categories. Okay. So horror and social, these 3 numbers and these 3 numbers have to be minimum 1, each of them. Okay. Now guys, in Asia, if you remember, the number had to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. If I put horror Asia as 3, if I put this as 3, these two cannot be 1, 1 because the total has to be 8. So therefore, I know this has to be 2 and these two have to be 1, 1. So this will be 3. These two will be 1, 1. This will become 3 and this will become 2 and my table is over. I think this was one of the simplest sets in this test and pretty straightforward with just certain amount of deductions. I hope that's clear. Let's move on to the questions quickly. In which category did Asia send the maximum number of films? Fantasy, 4 films. How many regions did not send a single film in a particular category? So there is 1, there is 2. There are 2. Which region sent the maximum number of films in children's category? It has to be Africa. And which of the following statements is definitely false? Number of films sent by Europe and Australia in children's category is same. Europe and Australia in children's category is same. That's true. Except in the children's category, Australia sent an equal number of films in each category. That is also true. None of the regions sent more than 4 films in any category. That is also true. So therefore, none of the above. And that's it. The set is over. All right, let's look at the next set. Okay. This, although on the surface of it looks very similar to the previous set of missing values, but if you would have looked at the questions, you would have understood that there are going to be cases and a level of incompleteness in this set. Yes, as opposed to the previous set, which was very direct in itself. All right, let's do this set together. In an MBA entrance exam, there are 4 sections: QA, VA, DI, GA. Okay. Each section comprises of 35 questions. Okay. The GA section comprised of questions from 4 different areas: economics, politics, history, and current affairs. And all the questions could be classified based on the difficulty as easy, moderate, difficult, difficult, or very difficult. Okay. So guys, if you read the set, clearly the first line does not hold a lot of importance to the set, right? This set is all about the general awareness section. Rest of the data given to us of 4 different sections, QA, VA, DI, is kind of useless over here. Yes. Okay, let's start solving and let's see what we can do with this. I know the total is 35. Yes, I have to figure out uh, the 4 areas of questions and their difficulties and how many in each. Yes, missing values, classic set. Clue number 1, what does it tell me? The number of questions from each of economics, politics, and current affairs is twice of that from history. Very simply, this gives me 5 in history and 10 in each of them. Yes, I told you we will always, if possible, try to figure out the totals on both sides and then try to play the sort of a Sudoku in the middle for the values. Yes. So clue number 1 is done. Each of the 4 areas within the GA section had at least one question and at most 4 questions of each of the 4 difficulty levels. So this clearly tells me that none of these values are 0. That's all that this clue tells me. Okay. Clue number 3. The number of moderately difficult questions is same as the number of easy questions, which in turn is thrice the number of very difficult questions. So if I take this as x, this becomes 3x, this becomes 3x. Okay. If there had been 3 less difficult questions, the number of difficult questions would have been the same as total number of very difficult questions. So essentially this is x plus 3. So again, I will be able to find all the totals because this becomes 8x plus 3. Yes. So if this is 8x plus 3, this becomes 4, 7, 8, and 12 and 12 because it was 3x. So 12 and 12. And just to cross verify, this is 24 and 11, 35. So this is done. Okay, very simple, very straightforward. Before I even move to clue number 5, I know none of the values have to be 0. None of the values can be 0. So very difficult. We'll have exactly one question in each of these areas. Okay, just putting it out there. Now looking at clue number 5. The number of easy questions from politics is 2. So this is 2. Okay. And I also know that every cell has minimum 1, maximum 4. Okay. Now guys, if I look at where to start, I always tell you look at the extremes. Look at the extremes and look at the extremes which have some data to begin with. So one extreme that I see is history, which has very low number of questions. And another extreme I see is easy questions, which have very high number of questions and already have one data point as politics giving 2 questions in easy. So I'll try to figure out if with these extremes I can get some data in my table. Now, in this, what is the maximum value any cell in history can take? Because I know each of them will have to be at least 1. So maximum is 2. So if I put 1 over here, suppose I put 1 in here, the sum of politics and history in easy becomes 3 and the total is 12. But I cannot make 9 with 2 numbers which have an upper limit of 4. So therefore I know this has to be 2, 1, 1 and the other 2 become 4 and 4. Yes. Clear, 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 clear. What else? What else can I see? What is the next extreme that I can look at? I can see difficult questions are 7 and the rest of them in horizontal look at the total of 10, where politics is minimum. I've been given 1 and 2. So I have to make 7. So clearly the numbers will be 3 and 4. That's the only possibility. 3 and 4 or 4 and 3. So let's just make 2 cases out of this very quickly. Yes. So I'll just copy the data over here and we will be able to make another case fairly quickly. Okay. Let's take 4 here and 3 here and 3 here and 4 here. All right. Case number 2. What does it tell me? If there is 4 and 1 in difficult, this has to be 1 and 1. Yes. And this becomes 4 and this becomes 4. And your table is complete. How about case number 1? Case number 1. Okay. So I have a 3 and 1 in difficult. but I still need to make 3 more. So it can be a 2 and 1. So I'm not sure how it will pan out. So I might have to make one more case for this. So let's very quickly make one more case for this, wherein we will just plug in those two values and we will get our final answer for both the tables. Yes. So yeah, I had a 4. Yes. So 1 and 2. And here I'll put a 2 and a 1. So this becomes 3. This becomes 4. And here this becomes 4. This becomes 3. So these are the 3 tables which I get, which are satisfying all the given conditions. Clearly, we knew that this is going to be a sort of a case heavy kind of a set because the questions were incomplete. So let's look and answer the questions. Look at and answer the questions. Which of the following cannot be the difference between the number of difficult questions from politics and current affairs? Now, as soon as I looked at this question, while I was looking at the set, even before making the solution, I realized this is an MCQ and it's telling me which of this cannot be a difference, which told me that there are going to be at least 3 cases because 3 of them are true, right? Only one of them cannot be. That is the reason I started with 3 tables on my paper because I knew there are going to be at least 3 cases, if not more. Okay, that was the rationale. So if I look at this, difficult from politics and current affairs. So it can be 3, it can be 2, it can be 1, cannot be 0. Okay. If there are 2 difficult questions from current affairs, so difficult from current affairs is 2, which is this table. Which of the following is definitely false? There is 1 difficult question from economics, true. 4 moderately difficult from politics, again true. There are 4 moderately difficult questions from current affairs, that is false. Option C. Okay. Question number 3. Which of the following details cannot be uniquely determined? So guys, in such question, all they are asking you is which value is not same in all the 3 tables. Okay, na? That is what it means when they say cannot be uniquely determined. Yes. If they ask can be uniquely determined, means which value is same in all the 3 tables. Okay. That's how you read this. Number of very difficult questions from politics. So very different from difficult from politics is 1 everywhere. So it is unique. Number of easy questions from economics. Again unique. Number of moderately difficult from current affairs. So 4, 4 and 3. So I don't think that's unique. And number of difficult from history, that is unique. So it has to be option C. Which of the following is true of the number of difficult questions from economics? Difficult from economics. So 1, 2 and 1, right? Difficult from economics. So at least 1, at most 2. That's it. Which of the following combinations of questions is not possible? Okay. Number of moderately difficult questions from each of economics and politics, 4. Moderately difficult economics and politics, 4. Possible, case number 3. Moderately difficult from economics is 3. Okay, case number 2. And difficult from politics is 4. I don't think that is possible. I will still check other options. Number of difficult from politics and current affairs are 3 and 1. So that is possible. Yes. Number of difficult questions from politics is 3. So difficult from politics is 3. Again, case number 2 and 3, right? Right, yeah. And the number of moderately difficult from economics is 4. That is also possible. So option B is my answer. So definitely not an easy set, but from question number 1, you could have judged that there will be at least 3 cases, if not more. We were lucky that we had exactly 3 cases, right? Just certain number of deductions were important. Looking at the extreme values again is the key to most of these types of sets. Let's look at the next set. 6 students, A, B, C, D, E, F, wrote an examination which had 10 questions in total. A student was awarded 1 mark for every question he she answered correctly and was awarded -half for incorrect answers. Okay. Not attempting has no penalty. Okay. And we have been given certain clues. So clearly we have to figure out, who answered how many correctly or incorrectly, how many was their attempts, and what were their marks. Again, sort of a classic missing value. Yes. Let's look at the table and figure it out. In matrix sets or any other set, my usual goal is to essentially look for direct clues as much as possible, correct? And then figure those out. So the direct clues which I can see is clue number 6. Fatima scored a net of 5.5. Bhanu scored a net of 6. Okay. Now 5.5, how can you score that? So you can have a 6 questions correct and 1 question wrong. So this will give you a 5.5. Yes. Or the next other combination can be um, 8 questions correct. No, 7 questions correct. 7 questions correct, right? And 3 questions wrong. Okay. So I have 7 questions correct and 3 questions wrong. But is this possible? Clearly not, because if I do this, point number 4, which talks about Bhanu attempted more questions than any other student. That means Bhanu had a unique highest attempt. And the highest number of questions are 10. So therefore, this is not possible. Therefore, the only possibility for Fatima is to attempt 7 questions, get 6 correct, 1 incorrect, and get a score of 5.5. Okay. How about Bhanu? Bhanu, I know, attempted the highest number of questions alone, right? To get a net of 6 marks, you can only and only what you can do is attempt 9, get 7 correct and 2 incorrect, and thereby getting 6 marks. This is the only possible combination. Okay. So clue number 6 is taken care of. What does clue number 1 tell me? Now let's start from the top, because that's the only direct clue, as I said, that I was looking for. Every student attempted at least 7 questions and exactly 1 student answered more than 4 questions incorrectly. At least 7 were attempted. Bhanu attempted more than anybody and Bhanu attempted 9. Therefore, I know all the other students attempted 7 or 8 questions. Yes. And exactly 1 student answered more than 4 incorrectly. Okay. Clue number 2 tells me no 2 students answer the same number of questions correctly. Okay. But every student answered at least 3 correctly. Now is read between the lines between these 2 clues. There is exactly 1 student who got more than 4 incorrect. That means 5 incorrect. Any student has attempted maximum 8 apart from Bhanu, and every student has gotten at least 3 correct. So there is somebody who has gotten a combination of 8, 5, and 3. 8 attempts, 5 correct, 3 incorrect. Yes. And we know the number of correct questions are, sorry, I think this is opposite. 3 correct and 5 incorrect. And number of correct questions are unique. Yes. So for all I know, it will be 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes. Why can I say this? Because if there is another person who has gotten only 2 questions right, if they attempted 7, that means they also would have gotten more than 4 questions wrong, which is not possible. And same is the case for 8. So therefore, I know this is going to be the number of questions which anybody, all the students could have gotten correct. Okay. From this, I have already taken care of 7 and 6. So what do we see? There is somebody who has gotten 8 correct. So maximum they could have attempted is 8, gotten 8 correct and 0 incorrect. Yes. And the other 2 also we will figure out. So this is what I can infer so far from the first 2 clues. Okay. All right. Clue number 3. The number of questions attempted by each of Chitra and Fatima was the same. So Chitra is also attempting 7 and was less than that of Amar. So Amar I know has attempted 8. Amar, who in turn answered less number of questions correctly than Dev. So in terms of correct answer, right, Dev is greater than Amar. Okay. What does clue number 4 tell me? Bhanu attempted more questions than any student. We've already taken that part. Bhanu did not get the highest marks. Clearly, there is somebody who has gotten an 8 out of 8. So they have gotten 8 marks. Clearly. Yes. Okay. The number of questions answered incorrectly by Chitra was less than that by each of Amar and Dev. Okay. Incorrectly by Chitra was less than that by Amar and Dev. Now, here I can have two cases, right? In 4 and 5, 7 attempters or 8 attempters. Here incorrect will be 3, here it will be 2, here it will be 4, and here it will be 3. Yes. So what is told to me is that Chitra's incorrect questions were less than that of Amar and Dev. Yes. So if I look at these numbers, I know that Chitra has attempted 7 questions. So Chitra could have gotten only 2 or 3 incorrect. Yes. In which case, I know D and A got minimum 3, 4, or 5 incorrect. Like if Chitra got 2 incorrect, D and A can have whatever 3, 4, 5. Yes, everybody with me? So what I know for sure is that E is the only person who can have 8, 8, and 0. Correct? This is the only possibility. Okay. What else can I say? What else can I say? Since I know D has gotten more correct questions than A, right? It cannot be equal, it has to be more. So A has to be 8, 3, 5, and 0.5. Yes. I hope this is clear to all of you. That number of questions incorrectly by Chitra was less than that each by Amar and Dev. Correct? So now 3, 7, 6, and 8 are gone. So this is gone, right? This is gone. I'm left with 4 and 5. Now, if Chitra got 4 correct, suppose, she would have gotten 3 incorrect. Yes. And therefore leaving D with 5 questions. And D, if D is left with 5 questions correct, D's incorrect question become less than equal to Chitra, which is not possible. So therefore, Chitra has to have 5 questions correct and 2 questions incorrect, thereby getting 4 marks. And D, I don't know for sure, could have 7 or 8 questions. Yes, from which D will get 4 questions correct, right? 3 or 4 questions incorrect, and therefore score how much? 2.5 or 2 marks. And that's it. My table is complete. Again, a slight bit of reading between the lines and looking at the dependencies of clues, looking at the limits of the correct questions being unique, remembering that the inequality stands. You cannot have less than equal to if less than is given. These were the major clues in this set to look for. All right. Let's quickly answer the questions. What is the maximum number of questions answered correctly by any of the 6 students? 8. 8 on 8. Yes. What best can be said about the total marks of the net marks scored by all the 6 students? So it will be a 6 and a 10, which is 16, 24, 26, or 26 and a half. So it will be this. How many of the 6 students score a net of 5 marks or more than 5 marks in the exam? So it's 1, 2, and 3. Okay. Among the students who attempted exactly 7 questions, the student who scored the highest net marks is who? So exactly 7 questions. It's C or F. And F scored more than C. So that is the answer. How many of the statements are definitely true? All 3 of them turn out to be true. And that is the end of this set, and this section. Definitely not an easy section, but I hope you've learned a few things which will help you address this topic much better. I will cover better nuances and more nuances in this lecture's upcoming for tables and matrix revision. Do watch out for those, subscribe, and give the tests on the portal, link in description. I will see you guys next time in lecture number 2.